What a game that was. Welcome back here in the studio. What a game. Excalibur on the Wind Ranger, absolutely destroyed Lumi before the game started. Or rather, before the game started, we discussed the draft amongst ourselves while the commentators were casting a draft. And you said, well, you know, they lost, but the only way they're going to win is if they snowball.
Hard.
And well, they did. They did for sure. It was a pretty one-sided game, but a lot to talk about, I would say.
Honestly, their whole draft was like very innovative and amazing. Like the fact that they put Bane as a core, and he just ran around like fiend scripting or sleeping people. They relocate in, or even they set up with a shackle for a relocate. Like it was the kind of draft that, you know, you don't give them a minute to breed. You know, there was action all over the map as well. It was absolutely amazing. Very well played by everyone, to be honest.
What was the story of the game for you, Annie?
A lot of solo performances. I mean, Excalibur with a one-on-one kill in the mid lane probably set the game there. Maybe Yoki was not expecting his performance to be that dominant, but I guess that set pretty much the tone of the game. You had a lot of solo kills overall, and I think Empire just didn't expect that performance, and hopefully they can step it up in game 2. I think Andy is eating his words right now. Expecting the 4 games losing streak of NoLogicGaming.
What do you think of the Bane's item build, by the way? That was hilariously interesting. Phase boots, bracer, blade mail.
Bane long ago used to be played as a core mid as well. Like you could play the hero in mid lane, and I mean blade mail is overall, I guess, it's never bad on an intelligent hero. True. You get armor, you get that 5 seconds of sort of invulnerability. You don't really want to attack a Bane. Generally has a lot of stats, so he can hit hard as well. Obviously, he doesn't have the range, and he won't often serve in that. He doesn't serve a physical damage purpose, but interesting. And I guess it's also one of those things when you snowball really hard that it can help you.
Yeah.
I thought if he went for phase drums into Necrobook, that would have been amazing. Because when you have Necrobooks activated and you pop the drums, it's like having a Beastmaster Necrobook. You just go ham and kill people really fast. But Blade Mail to me is also like a quicker Aghanims of sorts. Because you know, Aghanims, when you grip, they don't want to attack you. Same thing with Blade Mail. You're so much, well,
I mean, the problem, the thing is with Axe, if you get Axe, the problem about Axe overall on Bane is that you just get interrupted.
You just get
so you paid 4K for an item that can still be interrupted.
Although in that game, there wasn't at least too many spells that could do it. There's a couple.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Blade Mail serves as such that if you dominate a game and you have a Blade Mail early on, then as long as the opponent does not have a BKB, it's actually a really good item to have, just because you pretty much can stand there knowing they can't just hit you.
So you're saying this is just especially better because you're snowballing hard?
Because you snowball hard,
right.
Opponents, like a carry does not have a BKB quick, and then you're pretty much invulnerable if you're full HP in sort of a fight.
Okay.
The thing I was just going to say about Excalibur on his Windrunner, like when he got the BKB and blinked into the Roshan pit, like just like that was actually the funniest thing ever. Like because you know you're completely.
And he blinked actually, because I thought like he blinked into the middle of everything.
Yeah, he was like, "Let's go."
Yep.
And I think he missed a shadow.
Yeah, but that was whatever. Like he got Winter's Cursed, I believe. Yeah, but it still didn't matter because they had no way to kill him with Wind.
And he didn't have any teammates around him at the time because he was way ahead of his team. It's like,
but that shows such confidence. You know what I mean? And like he's like, okay, this is how we're playing now. You know what I mean? We're gonna just dominate everywhere.
Yeah, most of the kills, though, as mentioned earlier, were pickoffs. So I'm very curious to see what Luminous has selected for us for the Luminous analysis.
Okay, so the replay that I wanted to select was the Ultra kill from Excalibur that almost became a Rampage, but Scriff messed it up and did not have that clip. So instead, we're going to see a team fight where... Yeah, Scriff always messes up.
Honestly.
All right, so let's jump into this replay. This is one of those replays that, obviously, NLG was very far ahead. We're going to see a relocate in, and the Wyvern gets off one of the most amazing curse that I thought the game was going to turn here, because if we pause, because what the commentator was saying is that the game was going terribly, but if you have a good enough momentum where you get enough BKB on your cores, you could actually turn the fight. So the curse started off very well here. And I want you to focus on your Shadow Fiend, Yoku, who already had a very tough game. He's on the back line. We can't draw, unfortunately.
What happened?
So I
Did you
think
guys break the
if you
table?
pause here, as the snowball's going in, I think you should rip a Requiem here. Sure, it's not going to be the most amazing damage, but when you have a whole team curse and you could spread that minus 50%, what do you even call that effect? Damage reduction of the
Yes.
Shadow Fiend? Is there even a name for it? I don't think there is a name.
It's just
Damage
Damage
reduction.
reduction, all right.
Yeah.
Because at this point, the Wind Ranger is hitting so hard, and you just can't rely on you actually getting off a Requiem if you don't have enough disable, because there's so many things that could cancel it. There's Nightmare, there's Fiend Script, there's Static Storm, there's Glimpse, any one of those things that will cancel it. And you are not going to win a fight if you don't get off Requiem. So if we let the play roll, you can see that he's trying to go in further more, and he actually walks into a Static Storm, and then the fight to me is already lost here. Like, they need to do so much during that curse. He tries off to get a, and then he just gets cancelled. So it's already a very tough situation that we're in.
Set up for the shackle as well.
Yep.
And then, that's kind of the game.
It's actually very important that, like, I know this sounds kind of silly, but you sometimes when people shackle, you don't realize that you actually have to do damage before you hit. Like, some people think it's if you cast a spell, but in that case, he shackled and then power shot to remove the sleep. Otherwise, he would have just slept himself.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a small thing that people forget.
Yeah, but important to note is that I don't think they're gonna have another Wind Ranger because
I think the IO was actually a big part of it, and the Bane as well. Like, obviously, Excalibur played
Well,
absolutely amazing.
it is actually this time NoLogicGaming that removed the IO, as we just made it into the draft of the game, and it is no IO for NoLogicGaming, so they removed it themselves.
Do you really first ban Wind Ranger? I don't think so. No.
I don't think you need to
No.
ban a Wind Ranger. It's
Radiant
the hero
team
itself
ban.
can be very frustrating to deal with in
Yeah.
a one-on-one. But I also think that Yoki's gonna think that he
He's
made a
not gonna-
mistake in
yeah.
the laning phase, and it won't just happen again.
Would you, as a mid player, and you lost as hard as Yoki did in the previous game, would you want to have the same matchup again, purely to say, I can do this?
The salty run back.
Yeah.
Depends on what kind of player you are.
Okay.
Maybe
Radiant
sometimes
team pick.
if you think you want to face the matchup again to prove your point,
Yeah.
that's could be one thing. The other aspect you have to think of is that it can happen that a player really dislikes one particular hero in a matchup.
To play against.
Yeah, to play against, and maybe that's the Windrunner for you because you get really annoyed with shackle shots per se,
Yeah.
and you can't really play your game.
10 seconds.
Some people have
Well,
a
just
problem.
kills you a little
Yeah,
bit.
like
Yeah.
it's just like how you play the game. But overall, I
5
think
seconds
Windrunner
remaining.
is easier. Like it's not that hard to deal with. It's annoying
Reserve
to lane
time.
against overall, yes, but it's not a hero that stresses you a lot. I think
Okay.
a hero per se in a mid lane in a matchup, let's say,
Viper or
I think a
Queen of Pain.
Viper, but Queen of Pain would be a really good example that you can get stressed by Queen of Pain a lot. If you have a very aggressive playstyle overall, a matchup that doesn't suit a Queen of Pain against a Shadow Fiend, for example,
Makes you frustrated that you can't play
yeah,
aggressive.
it's more of those
Well,
kind of heroes.
Queen of Pain and Shadow Fiend is in the pool.
Yeah.
Both in.
No Logic is on the Radiant side, I think. So I think Shadow Fiend might be
It could be one option, but it also depends on what Excalibur really likes to play.
okay.
So we can see the Shadow Fiend here, so that should be most likely his hero.
Mm-hmm.
And Lich could be the opening for an offlane dual lane,
Okay.
potentially. We saw the dual lanes that they ran before. This is a more common to see here on the offlane. And I also think they should run it on that lane for sure. Unless we actually seen yesterday, Shadow Fiend played with a Lich in the later portion of the early game that the Lich rotate towards the mid
10
lane. I
seconds
like
remaining.
Lich Shadow Fiend as a dual lane middle a lot. It's not
Five
as
not from the
common.
start.
It's not
remaining.
as common. No, even at the start,
Okay.
that you just make sure the mid lane gets almost nothing.
Reserve
You just
time.
keep denying the lane and make it easy for a Shadow Fiend that you stack up for him. You just give him a really good game. And the mid laner, if it's a Queen of Pain can't deal with a Lich dual lane in the mid lane at all. It's really, really tough to have a good game as your mid.
Yeah, it's already very common to see, at least for the first 2 minutes, it's actually a 2v2 in the mid lane. Like the supports come in and help.
Yeah.
And what better support to have is Lich, taking away the experience from the other dual lane. We are going to see the
Okay.
Beastmaster Slaughter. So looks like a safe lane Slaughter and an off lane Beastmaster. Obviously, the Beastmaster could go mid. And I think yesterday you were mentioning that Slaughter could be a mid hero if there's a right matchup, but
Yeah.
definitely not against a Shadow Fiend.
No, in that matchup, he's going to have a hard time. And I would also assume it tends to be more of a carry role.
Radiant
Is
team
Slaughter.
ban.
Yeah, I agree. How important is the Dazzle ban here? Like both teams would benefit very highly, especially NoLogicGaming because from the Dazzle.
I think Dazzle overall has a pretty good synergy with the Slaughter, so
I think it's also really good against someone like Beastmaster. Who's you try and focus them one hero. Heroes like Shadow Demon and Dazzle become
10
way more
seconds
powerful.
remaining.
it's just that, I mean, for the side of Empire, I think it's a good pick.
5 seconds
On the side of
remaining.
NoLogicGaming, I don't think it's great.
Radiant
Lich,
team
Dazzle,
back.
because you two defensive supports.
just I feel like the synergy is not that great, but you could still, I guess you could still end up in pretty good dual lanes.
I wouldn't mind seeing another disruptor. I think that hero can just make so many plays. Although it does
10 seconds
work better if you're
remaining.
ahead from the start, so
Yeah.
that you can actually
Because you can pull people back.
Yeah,
You can't-
it's not
5
really
seconds
easy to fight from
remaining.
behind with disruptor, but I think if you're fighting
I'd
from ahead,
actually-
the amount of control and chase
Radiant
potential gives
team
is
pick.
insane.
I think Shadow Demon actually
Going
could work.
back to my words, I actually like the Dazzle for.
Yeah, Dazzle works for NoLogicGaming. I agree.
Yeah. It's true.
There's a Wind Ranger ban coming, this
Close.
time from NoLogicGaming.
He's like, I don't want to do Shadow Fiend versus Wind Ranger.
No.
No.
I don't want him to prove that he can
Not
do
again.
it too. That might be as well.
It's actually a particular reason why they switched up the lanes. I think Yoki is a better offlaner and Resolution is a better mid
Radiant
player.
team pick.
And maybe they just
Um,
wanted to mix it up. 'cause
I think they wanted to mix it up. There were rumors going around as well that
Wait. Didn't we interview Resolution? He said he wanted a challenge.
yeah, we put we're a little bit words in his
Yeah, we
mouth
kinda
though,
did, didn't we?
because
Maybe you got
That
bored.
was
I mean,
mad.
yes,
speaking from my experience, that what can happen in a team is that you get tired of how
Complacent.
how your game
10
runs, how your
seconds
game is
remaining.
going. And Resolution is more of the player that creates a lot of space for his
5
team, while
seconds
Yoki is the player
remaining.
that, as an offlaner, gets a lot of farm. He
Yeah.
likes to farm, so he likes to be a center
Reminds
of
me
attention.
of
Time.
S4 and Bulldog actually a lot.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Where Bullock still forces, he'll always get farm, no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah.
That's just his playstyle. He likes to get that farm and attention, and maybe it suited that kind of playstyle for
Yeah,
Empire to
the-
switch it up.
the rumor was that Yoki wanted to play mid. Therefore, Yoki wasn't in Team Empire when the rosters were set.
Okay.
And then obviously they missed the roster lock, and Yoki came back, and then went to play mid because he wanted to play mid, and then Empire offered him the opportunity, and they worked it out internally to do it the way that they did. But that's the rumor, so there's no guarantee on that.
I mean,
whatsoever.
it has some, like back when we came from Hon with the old Fnatic roster. We were in a similar situation where I used to play mid in Dota 1, but then I switched to support in Hon, and then when we transitioned to Dota 2, it was the problem that I guess Notel or our synergy overall did not really fit that he plays a mid role.
Yeah.
So then we switched it up, and then I turned towards the mid lane where he played the support. But now, with the current roster in Monkey Business, I think innerly he really enjoys playing a
Yeah.
mid role. He just really likes playing the core role, and that's why he switched back to it. And I think it's really good for him. So it could be exactly
10
that
seconds
inner, like,
remaining.
you're not really happy with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's a switch
And
up.
to be
5
honest,
seconds remaining.
lately we see offliners just being a lot more playmakers and tempo definers,
Hmm.
and I think that really suits Resolution. He's
Yeah.
doing
Reserve
amazingly on that
time.
offline,
Is
even
it-
though he's switched not too recently,
it-
like fairly recently rather.
Dragon Knight time.
Is it though? For Empire?
Yeah.
So many melee cores. I don't know. You're gonna be up against the Lich. It's gonna be really tricky. Lich and Disruptor. I wouldn't want to have another melee core.
You run a very tanky lineup with a Dragon Knight, but you also are guaranteed to lose your lane. You're not winning
Against
a
Shadow
lane
Fiend, yeah.
against a
Yeah.
Shadow Fiend, and you would want to pressure that hero.
I like
Queen
to
of Pain
see,
is still here actually.
yeah, like more of a magic-based core.
Because you have so much physical damage already.
Yeah, and also if you think about Lich Frost Armor, the Frost Blast, and Tusk Frozen Sigil, you can have a ton of minus attack speed, which I think it's often the forgotten part about this kind of dual combination of heroes. Obviously, you do have the inner Beast Aura from Beastmaster helping out, but let's say NoLogic somehow picks up a Shiva's card, right, somewhere down the line. Suddenly the minus attack speed will stack up quite a bit. Against a hero like Slardar, he's not going to be attacking that much.
It's true.
But again, Beastmaster, especially if he picks up Necrobook, should even things out a bit there.
I think Queen of Pain is decent. It's Disruptor is obviously pretty good against Queen of Pain.
10
it's
seconds
pretty
remaining.
Queen
decent.
of Pain is optional. Tinker
5
Ah.
seconds
is actually
With the
really
Beast
good.
Master.
But this time it's Team Empire.
Yeah.
Yoki Tinker. It's Yoki Queen of Pain.
remaining.
No surprise there. It's a good solid pick, especially on Dire. Is one of the better heroes just because ganking is going to be harder.
Yep.
And your rune control is still pretty good.
And you also, when you get a roar, you have follow-up damage behind it.
Mm-hmm. Though I'm actually very interested in how the Lich will function in this kind of game. If he is going to be in the mid lane to support a Shadow Fiend, which I think would be still a pretty good decision to do that. Because there's hardly any hero on the side of Empire that can help out a Queen of Pain. Yeah. You can't just come there and do that much. Lich can't stack for you. Lich is gonna take over the lane once you hit level 5 on Shadow Fiend, and you can take those stacks. And you still take a creep, take one creep every wave. It's very, very annoying to play against.
What do you think of Lich Legion Commander, dual offline?
Radiant team pick.
Lich Legion Commander.
I think the spell is very, very good against Roar.
The problem is that Lich in a dual lane, off lane, unless it's a Doom, it's a Doom, I think the hero Lich in itself doesn't really help you on the lane. Like he
pulls it back a bit for you.
He pulls it back, but it's not a lane that actually pressures you.
Okay.
Like you sustain on the lane, well, you can sit at the tower, but you will not force the carry to like suddenly stop farming. He will get less for sure, but he's not like it's not a lane that pressures you. So then you can be more vulnerable on your mid lane per se.
So we couldn't do this last game because obviously we weren't the ones doing the draft. But I can do it this game. What's your thoughts? Who's gonna win? Give me a prediction. Is NoLogicGaming gonna do it again?
Honestly,
Team Empire gonna be striking back?
I'm gonna go with Empire in this. I think the Beastmaster's really good against Slark, and they have you have the vision to catch him out.
Okay, Hani?
Yeah.
I mean, they're going for a dual lane here. I'd assume that Undying as well as Beastmaster is gonna go in the off lane, and Lich is not gonna help there. I do see this Slark struggle a lot, and I would go with Empire here.
Yeah, I'll go with Team Empire as well. I think their team fight and lanes are a lot easier to execute. I feel like if NoLogicGaming is going to win this game, they have to snowball hard again. And I don't think this time Team Empire is going to underestimate them. So
I do have to point out to people at home that most people on this couch were also skeptical with the draft of NoLogicGaming previous game.
I just say they can win if
Okay, let's go.
But we all
against
agreed
it.
that Empire's draft was very strong.
If there's a Lich Shadow Fiend lane in mid, I'm gonna go with NoLogicGaming. If that happens.
If there's a Lich Shadow Fiend mid?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll allow that stint in the contract, apparently. But we're gonna find out who's gonna take this this game, if it's gonna be 1-1 or if NoLogicGaming can get an upset and get a 2-0 in the pocket. It is time for NoLogicGaming versus Empire with OD Pixel and Draskell.